At level 7, a rancor is a multi-ton, semi-bipedal ambush predator with dense dermal plating, redundant forelimb musculature, and a bite that crushes cage bars and speeder struts. Its practical danger lies in 3 combined traits: reach, grapple control, and pain tolerance. The foreclaws hook and yank targets off balance. Once a limb is pinned, the head closes the distance for a bite or wall slam that stuns even armored opponents. The hide disperses heat and resists shallow cuts, so casual sidearms, knives, and civilian plasma cutters underperform unless they hit soft points: inner mouth, eyes, nasal passages, or the axillary seam behind the forelimb. In pits, caves, or alleys where movement is restricted, the rancor's wingspan denies angles and turns precision strikes into risky lunges. Environmental control is its primary weapon. It herds prey into dead ends and uses vertical space to trap targets under overhangs or against pillars. Debris becomes a secondary hazard. Hurled bones, bars, or masonry interrupt firing rhythm long enough for a grab. Crowd scenes multiply casualties because panic shoves victims into the creature's reach. Effective counters are geometry and nervous system overload. Vertical escape, lateral spacing, and anchored lines force the beast to pivot its torso, exposing inner elbow seams and throat. Stun or sonic grenades collapse vestibular balance, opening a few-second window for a thrust to the palate, or for a gate door drop to deliver lethal crush damage without prolonged contact. The rancor ranks at 7 since it dominates close quarters and punishes mistakes, but it's beatable by prepared teams with space, shock ordnance, or environmental traps. Its lethality is local, not strategic, keeping it below fauna that threaten cities, shipping, or planetary systems. Where the rancor owns tight-walled kill boxes, the Krayt dragon at level 6 flips the map and strikes from the only cover in a desert: the sand beneath your feet. A greater Krayt dragon ranks as severe because it is a city block scale burrower that swims under dunes and erupts beneath targets with enough force to flip skiffs and collapse outcrops. Layered keratin scales and subdermal plating disperse blaster heat. Small caliber fire mostly aggravates it. The mouth and gullet project corrosive bile in a wide cone that strips organics and eats through conventional armor. Even when plates hold, thermal and chemical shock blinds optics and disables sensors. Krayts deny vehicle and infantry advantages, which ranks them as severe. In shifting sand, footing fails, turning evasive movement into predictable arcs. The monster attacks from below, where parries and cover are irrelevant. The bile jet bypasses energy deflection entirely. Shockwaves from tail thrash and body slam turn rocks and debris into secondary shrapnel lethal to clustered teams and light transports. The hunting method is area denial plus ambush. It tracks vibration through sand, waits for clustered prey or idling engines, and strikes under herds, convoys, or perimeter fences, then dives before heavy ordnance can mass. Caves and canyon mouths become kill funnels when the dragon collapses ceilings behind intruders, isolating them from support. Wounding often triggers rage tunneling, cycling up and down beneath the same ground until the zone becomes a sink field. Effective counters exploit internal vulnerabilities and terrain. Luring a Krayt to ingest a large explosive, detonated in the gullet, bypasses armor. Pre-rigged overhangs dropped onto the skull create concussive kills. Massed ion across sensor pits can briefly disorient, buying time for a shaped charge to the mouth or eye. All require bait, preparation, and luck, rare in open desert. A Krayt ranks at 6 since it devastates battlefields and small settlements, but its threat is regional, tied to desert biomes and ambush geometry. Creatures above it project danger across cities, fleets, or entire campaigns. In ships and stations, the ground stops shifting, but the threat doesn't. Where rathtars at level 5 turn corridors into feeding tubes. A rathtar is a fast, many-tentacled predator that moves as a rolling mass, then explodes outward to engulf. Each limb ends in a barbed pad, with independent muscle bundles strong enough to rip paneling. The mouth ring carries inward teeth that lock prey in the oral cone. The low profile lets it flow under doors and through grates. When compressed, it widens gaps by cycling limbs like a hydraulic jack. It ranks as severe due to practical danger of angle denial and multi-grab pressure. In corridors, one organism attacks from several directions at once. Severing a limb leaves many more closing. Stopping power that floors a humanoid merely slows a rathtar's mass. Pain doesn't interrupt the engulfment reflex. Attempts to pull free cost seconds the beast uses to bind legs, weapons, and breathing gear. Packs coordinate via pressure waves, hitting multiple compartments to trigger flight toward a chosen choke point. Once 3 or more are active, passageways become suction zones. Victims are pulled off their feet and passed inward. Ships without automatic segmenting lose entire decks as rathtars breach doors faster than crews can reroute. Effective counters rely on compartmentalization and electricity. Seal hatches to split the pack. Channel a single individual into a wide bay to circle and sever limbs cleanly. High-voltage shocks through deck grills disrupt neuromuscular control, opening a window for a thermal lance, or shaped charge, into the central mass. Chemical foams can gum pads, but require time transport crews, rarely have mid-breach. The rathtar ranks at 5, since a rathtar pack wipes crews and small facilities. But the danger is bounded by enclosed spaces and transport corridors. Higher ranks threaten cities, fleets, or planetary stability. Not every killer chases. Some let the terrain do the pulling. They're the pit that eats whole rescue plans. The sarlacc at level 4. A sarlacc is a stationary, millennia-lived ambush feeder embedded in bedrock. The visible beak is the mouth of a vast body latticed through subsoil, tens of meters of muscle rings, hundreds of barbed tendrils, and a toxin gland that sedates and preserves prey. The beak snaps shut hard enough to shear landing struts. Tendrils drag victims down in coordinated pulls that defeat single-angle cuts or lone rescuer lifts. Its deadliness and severe ranking comes from weaponized terrain. Every step at the rim slides toward the cone. Sand collapses, footing disappears, and jumps become predictable arcs that tendrils meet midair. In skiff fights or chaotic rescues, the sarlacc turns the entire zone into a gravity trap. One misstep equals capture. The neurotoxin slows heart rate and consciousness, extending survival but reducing the captive's ability to self-extract. Hunting pattern is pure area denial plus bait. Wreckage, bones, and scattered gear lure crews to the rim. Tendrils stay buried until multiple targets are within reach, then strike from several angles at once. Blaster barrages risk collapsing the lip and dumping shooters. Thermal charges can crater the rim, but may fracture the organism into deeper chambers, complicating extraction. Effective counters are anchored lines and distributed severing. Grapnels and fixed anchors beyond the slide zone stop drag. Multiple cutters or synchronized volleys remove tendrils faster than new ones can cycle. Skiff winches can rip roots, but only if pilots hold station under fire. Killing the core requires structural collapse of the throat, with heavy charges or dropped debris. Plans that demand prep and expose rescuers to counter-grabs. The sarlacc ranks at 4, since it is a strategic hazard for deserts and a guaranteed killer in chaotic engagements. But its fixed location limits reach. Higher ranks project danger across ships, cities, or supply chains. Extraction note, so the algorithm doesn't swallow you. Drop an anchor line by hitting subscribe and ringing the bell. That way, our next deep dive hauls you up before the feed's tentacles drag you back into the pit. When you climb out of the pit and into places built to trap you on purpose, There is the hunter at level 3 that is engineered to come find you, the terentatek. A terentatek is a compact, heavily muscled quadruped grown by Sith bioalchemy as a bespoke manhunter. Its hide shrugs shallow energy fire and glancing blades, its spines and claws carry paralytic venom, and its nervous system shows partial immunity to pain compliance and flash stun. The skull is ribbed with horn and ridge plates that deflect oblique strikes. Soft targets are the palate, eyes, and armpit seams behind the forelimbs. It ranks as severe to extreme due to its hunting behavior that exploits confined geometry. It lurks in tomb complexes, vaults, and cave throats, where visibility is poor and flanks are blocked, then ambushes at stairheads and choke points. When wounded, it surges into the weapon arm, forcing a choice between losing stance or getting dragged. The venom makes even minor cuts time-critical. Panic fire ricochets in tunnels, increasing friendly casualties. Effective counters stack disorientation with 2-angle finishes. Sonic/stun charges disrupt balance long enough for one operator to fix the head, while another drives a high-penetration thrust up through the palate or into the eye orbit. Deployable shields or polearms by distance. Light carbines are secondary. Hide disperses heat and encourages reckless closes. Solo engagements tend to become attritional losses. Teams with overlapping arcs and pre-briefed kill points prevail. A terentatek ranks at 3 because of its ambush ability, making it deadlier than terrain-bound megafauna. But outbreaks are rare and tied to specific sites. Above this are creatures that threaten cities, fleets, or trade corridors at campaign scale. Yet step out of the catacombs and into the void, and a greater shadow waits. The massive creature of deep space at level 2, the summa verminoth. A summa verminoth is a multi-kilometer cephalopodiform organism that hunts inside gravitic shear and electrical storms. Its body mass generates suction and torsion strong enough to crumple freighters. Each limb's toothed pad adheres to plating and prize panels like a crowbar. Dozens of photoreceptors track ion flashes and reactor signatures through dust and plasma, letting it ambush ships reliant on degraded sensors. Its lethality and extreme ranking comes from environment control, not just muscle. In the maelstrom, visibility, comms, and shields degrade under ion squalls. The creature uses those squalls as cover to strike from blind arcs and wrap an entire hull before cutters or cannons can act without venting compartments. Cutting while grappled risks decompression. Hesitating lets the beast spin prey toward debris fields or gravity pockets where escape vectors vanish. Hunting behavior is opportunistic trap-laying. It hugs the lee of gravity nodes and waits for traffic funneled between hazards. Reactor flares and distress beacons draw it. Once attached, it drags victims into higher shear, so the environment splits hulls. It ignores small craft unless tethered to larger targets, prioritizing the biggest mass with the hottest power signature. Effective counters exploit terrain against the predator. High thrust bursts past a gravity lip make limbs lose purchase. Drawing the creature toward a stronger well peels it off and tears tissue without gunfire. Ion volleys shock neuromuscular control, but accuracy is low in storm glare. The safest kill is to let the nearby gravity source do the work while crews cut only the limbs threatening integrity. A summa verminoth ranks at 2 because its projects ship and convoy scale danger, forces whole routes to bend, and neutralizes standard tools by weaponizing space weather. Only one beast outranks it for raw strategic impact, even after surviving storm-wrapped leviathans and ship-crushing tentacles. Nothing matches the battlefield dominance, or sheer terror, of the level 1 zillo beast. A zillo beast is a skyscraper-tall hexaped with dorsal plates and dermal layers that dissipate or reflect directed energy. Standard blasters and even heavy turrets ablate surface tissue without deep penetration. Tank-grade missiles bloom on dorsal plates. Its cardiovascular reserve and bone structure let it absorb artillery shock and keep moving, turning city blocks into debris fields as it advances. It ranks as extreme specifically because it negates common countermeasures. Energy fire underperforms on armor. High explosives damage infrastructure more than the beast. Sedatives require exotic volumes and delivery. In urban terrain, it converts streets into funnels, rips transit lines as whips, and uses building collapse as shrapnel. Anti-armor teams that stop walkers discover their warheads barely phase dorsal plates, while Ion buys only momentary motor disruption. Containment demands multi-node control, not brute force. Airframes herd toward open zones, while ground units bait into engineered traps. High-tension nets, collapsing culverts, deep sedation dispersers tuned to its metabolism. Even successful captures prove temporary. Environmental stress spikes aggression, and skylines offer leverage to break restraints. Lethal solutions are politically explosive in capitals. Non-lethal ones are logistically extreme. Its strategic importance exceeds a single rampage. Scales harvested for study proved energy reflective at densities beyond common armor, prompting attempts to duplicate the material or the organism. Cloning or domestication efforts produced breaches and black site relocations, demonstrating that proliferation would transform a local catastrophe into multi-world risk if fielded or unleashed. The Zillo Beast ranks at number 1 because it uniquely combines near immunity to direct energy with city-level destructive power and a proven path to replication. It forces doctrine changes at planetary scale, threatens industrial centers outright, and escalates from incident to strategic problem in a single campaign.